Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and welcome to year 2 of Billboard BREAKDOWN. We're now beginning the second year of chronicling the Hot 100 charts in detail, starting in December because Billboard's weird like that. And even though this is the week that I was prepared to unveil some new changes to the format, we also have to deal with one of the largest ever lists of new songs that I've ever had to deal with. Because for some god-awful reason, in order to split their bases, One Direction and Justin Bieber released their new albums in the same goddamn week. Now, sure enough, a whole slew of these songs will be gone next week. But for now, given Justin Bieber's shrewd promotional strategy to jack up the stream by releasing videos for so many songs, we've got a full list of 20 new tracks. Now, given that I already reviewed both new albums from Justin Bieber and One Direction, I'll endeavor to keep these short unless it's a bonus track that I hadn't otherwise covered, but strap in folks, this is gonna be a long episode. And as usual, we're starting with the top 10. Of course, Hello by Adele is still ruling pretty much everything with dominant sales, airplay, and crushing YouTube, but it actually slipped on streaming. Now, I expect this to be temporary, but for now, it's right behind at number 2 with Sorry by Justin Bieber, which took the top in streaming, held great YouTube and airplay gains, and yet when Adele is outselling you 2-1, you're not gonna beat her anytime soon. What you are beating is Hotline Bling by Drake, which slipped to number 3 on losses on YouTube and streaming despite some pretty substantial airplay gains and solid sales. But how long it'll stand up against Justin Bieber's other songs is up for debate, because he's got our first new top 10 entry with Love Yourself at number 4, which rode huge sales and streaming to snag this spot, just ahead of another Justin Bieber song with What Do You Mean at number 5, which gained even more on streaming and YouTube, had respectable sales, and even picked up some respectable airplay as well. This forces back The Hills by The Weeknd down to number 6, but you could have predicted that anyways. Losses across the board and weak sales to boot. It's still where it is thanks to inertia on airplay and pretty much little else. Not quite the same for Shawn Mendes' Stitches rising up to number 7, which despite okay sales and respectable airplay, it slipped on streaming. It'll be interesting to see where that peak ends up hitting. And after that onslaught of Canadians, we come to Fetty Wap and Remy Boys at number 8 with 679, which one has slipped thanks to weak sales and streaming and slipping airplay, but again, it's got enough inertia to stick around at least a little while longer. A little bit shakier is Wildest Dreams by Taylor Swift at number 9, which lost YouTube, had shaky airplay and pitiful sales to slip down there. Don't expect it to stick around much longer. And finally, we got our second new top 10 entry, Here by Olivia, following in Lord's wake with another anti-party anthem that swaps out the populism for pissiness, and yet still manages to mostly come together as a pretty decent song. In any case, it's here thanks to okay sales and decent enough airplay, only slipping on streaming thanks to the onslaught of the Bieber here. And on a side note, Olivia, she's also Canadian, which means a full 70% of the top 10 in the Hot 100 is Canadian. That's more than the actual Canadian charts right now. That's saying something. Now, I definitely don't expect this to last, which takes us to our losers and dropouts. What's key to note here is that Billboard brought in a new recurring rule, which states that any song that stays on the charts for 52 weeks, a full year, and falls below number 25 is dropped to the recurring list. Now, I actually like this rule, thanks mostly to streaming and long ongoing sales. Certain songs over the past 5 years have stuck around for months longer than predicted. And given that the primary culprit, Hi Adele, is releasing a brand new album, now is probably the best time to bring it in and at least encourage a bit more turnover on the charts. If the song's been going for over a year, it's long past the point of overexposure after all. In any case, the first 2 casualties of this rule were claimed this week with Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon and Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran. And you know what? I'm okay with both those dropouts. And hell, losing Cool for the Summer by Demi Lovato and Fight Song by Rachel Platten is reasonable too. They had at least 20 weeks apiece on the charts. What I'm less cool with are the dropouts that are because of streaming from Bieber and One Direction forced them out, like Levels by Nick Jonas, or Ginza by J Balvin, or Comfortable by K-Camp. And that's not even touching on the country dropouts like Anything Goes by Florida Georgia Line, or Save It for a Rainy Day by Kenny Chesney. Which takes us to the big elephant in the room with regards to the chart shifts this week. Each year, to reflect shifting music listening and purchase patterns, Billboard slightly adjusts their formula and ratios for the Hot 100. And of course, they never directly say how they do it. But you know, if I were to hazard a guess, I guess it's a slight pivot to rebalance active versus passive streaming and a slightly shifted radio pickup list. What becomes immediately clear is that the big losers this week were in country. Yeah, you could argue that Cole Swindle's Let Me See a Girl Falling to 80, Strip It Down by Luke Bryan sliding down to to 70, and break up with him by Old Dominion tumbling down to 64. That was going to happen anyway at this point in their chart run, and because they suck. Or that Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton collapsing hard down to 66 as the CMA buzz fades. But the drop to Smoke Break by Carrie Underwood is more telling that radio, the lifeblood of country, took a bit of a hit in the chart reshuffling. Outside of that, most of the other losses that kind of make sense. RGF Island by Fetty Wap falling down to 95 as a non-single that lasted longer than expected. Love Myself by Haley Steinfeld continuing its drop to 80, and Right Hand falling to 91 and back-to-back sliding down to 68, both by Drake respectively, as the momentum kind of sputters out as that album's nowhere near coming. And then there are some long-running tracks that haven't quite tracked enough momentum or just exiting naturally, like How Deep Is Your Love by Calvin Harris and Disciple sliding down to 48, Downtown by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis and their Arsenal collaborators stalling hard at 57, and Cheerleader by Omi finally dropping to 47. And I'd be remiss not to mention Liquor by Chris Brown falling to 79, which was apparently a bad enough sign for the rapper to delay his album scheduled for this Friday for a couple of weeks. No complaints here, that song is hot garbage. The one loss that kind of confused me was Drag Me Down by One Direction falling to 40. It was just that there were so many other new One Direction songs that were better crowding it out, but you think it would have at least gotten a little bit of a boost coming up this week. And on that note, we come to our gains and our returning entries. Yes, folks, this is the first place where Billboard Breakdown is gonna change for this year, because I'm folding in the returning songs into this area. It's a smoother fit, I've already covered these tracks before, and also addresses the case where old songs make a return and could easily snag the best of the week, which does strike me as at least a little bit unfair. And in this case, that one returning entry, In the Night by The Weeknd at 86, would have easily taken best of the week, because it's the best song from Beauty Behind the Madness, and it's all around a pretty damn great song. Can't say the same about all of our smallest of gainers, all of which can be fairly easily explained. I'm Coming Over by Chris Young picks up to 33 because of the album release. Where They From by Missy Elliott and Pharrell surges up to 22 because the internet promptly went crazy for it and spurred the controversy that it was a long and coming diss to Miley Cyrus. Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars staves off the recurring list because of another viral resurgence, as if we hadn't had enough of those already. And Where Are You Now by Skrillex and Diplo goes up to 34 because the song was included on the album of the guest star, Justin Bieber. But let's make this clear, he wasn't the only one who broke onto the charts this week, and he's not the first on our docket as we discuss our new arrivals, starting with number 100, Never Enough by One Direction.
You can take it, don't need my heart. You can break it, break it. I just can't get too much of you, baby. It's never enough. Never enough. It's never.
Oh look, the absolute worst song from Made in the AM that thinks that the hottest things possible on a sex song are synths and guitars compressed into buzzy blocks, fake horns, and a grunting vocal line that reminds me way too much of Hooked on a Feeling, except nowhere near as fun. I can almost appreciate the song in a goofy sort of way if the production wasn't so disastrously bad, or One Direction's rougher stabs at rock screams weren't so laughable. Again, it's not really a hateable track, but it is pretty damn embarrassing for sure. Number 98, Trust by Justin Bieber.
You believe in love, then we could be in love somehow. If you want the best for us, like I want the best for us, then we gotta let her trust right now.
Okay, now onto the Justin Bieber show. And this is actually a song I didn't cover, as it was one of the bonus songs. And I can kind of see why it was placed on the bonus disc. It actually shows Bieber more in his upper range on the intro into a thicker, heavier R&B vein with a pretty dancing piano against the buzzing whooshes of the synth line. Shame he doesn't stay in that vein, but instead it is pitch correction mid-range while he tries to croon over how he and this girl should stay together and trust their feelings. After all, they've been together so long, so let's start fresh if there's problems. So wait a minute, if you're gonna try to rely on trust to keep things going, trust which is built on shared experiences based on the definition of the word, isn't that kind of the opposite of going for a complete fresh start where you want to forget the past? The foundational principle of this song is placing our trust in our feelings for Justin Bieber. And as someone who doesn't really have any feelings, that doesn't do much for me. Not bad instrumentation though, I'll give him that. Number 97, I Know What You Did Last Summer by Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello. No. So, not not to be outdone by Justin Bieber, Shawn Mendes has a new single coming from the re-release of his debut album Handwritten, which I covered earlier this year. This time a duet with Camila Cabello of Fifth Harmony. Now, I had no reason to expect this to be good. Great, a low-rent Bieber Ed Sheeran knockoff teaming up with the worst singer from Fifth Harmony, taking the title of a terrible Freddie Prinze Jr. horror movie from the late 90s. But a few listens convinced me that this song could have actually had potential. Also thanks to an acoustic relic with some decent texture underscoring some dark piano fragments, and Shawn Mendes actually not doing a bad job capturing the grief that comes with knowing that your partner cheated on you and you have to end things. And hell, there's a moment in the bridge where he dips into his lower range where you can tell a trace of the anger just beneath it that he can't quite convey yet in his regular tones. But you know what, I'm sorry, Camila's vocals still need a lot of work. She can't stay in key consistently, she slips flat and sharp way too many times, and while she's not bad conveying that panic desperation, the fact that the lyrics don't flesh out her side of the story or describe her motivation to cheat means that she's really just intended as the target of Shawn Mendes' passion, the girl to get dumped, which he can't pull off with any sort of believable passion. I don't know, I think this song could have worked, but not really like this, just saying. Number 96, Temporary Fix by One Direction. We get a bonus track from the One Direction that I actually didn't cover when I covered their album. And you know, I have to wonder why this wasn't included on the album, because Made in the AM could have definitely used the sort of momentum that this track has, with a solid bass line and an energetic, albeit compressed guitar line that actually makes a decent stab at pop rock, at least till the bridge synth and the beat completely crushes it. But then again, it's a song about one-night stands, and we consider how relatively tame the sexual content was on Made in the AM, it's not surprising that it wound up on the chopping block. It's still kind of disappointing though, because Temporary Fix, not a bad song. I'll take it. Number 94, AM by One Direction.
Always made in the AM, 'cause we don't know what we're saying. We're just swimming around in our glasses and talking out of our asses like we're all gonna make it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I get why this was cut to the bonus disc. I already wasn't wild about the acoustic ballads on Made in the AM, and one more of them, even if it had a title drop, probably wouldn't end up there. But then again, I'd easily include this among the upper tier of songs from Made in the AM, if only because it's got more acoustic texture, a solid, if conventional melody line, and plays to a pretty basic campfire vibe about you and your buddies just chatting late at night. It fits the camaraderie of the album. But you know what, there's also warmth here and heart to the track that feels surprisingly authentic. In other words, it's no surprise that Simon Cowell cut it to the main disc. Pretty damn good track though, definitely recommended. Number 90, Get Used to It by Justin Bieber. We've got our second Justin Bieber bonus track, and wow, that's a very brittle synth line there. Hell, again, some of those faded, ebbing synth effects around it, that doesn't sound bad at all. Almost to disguise the fact that Justin Bieber again fades straight into the background, not helped by vocal effects that make him feel even more anonymous. And yeah, lyrics are fine enough. It's a song about newfound love that features Justin Bieber making big plans for the future. But am I the only one who thinks that he's playing things a little bit fast by implying this girl should get used to constant checking in and making out? I get it, it's young love, but it feels a little bit presumptuous to me, a little bit awkward. He's certainly made worse songs, we'll be getting to them, but I gotta be honest here, no surprise that this is a bonus track. Just saying. Number 88, We Are by Justin Bieber featuring Nas.
The truth don't make us relevant. Hurts, but it's necessary. No one else to lose what we are. Don't want us to lose what we are. Lose what we are.
Okay, let's be honest here. The only reason most people give a damn about this song is Nas delivering a guest verse. And as much as I was a little bit surprised this wasn't included on the standard issue of the album, I'm ultimately not surprised. Nas doesn't have the same star clout that he used to. Of course, listening through the song gave me that answer. Like Trust is playing much more in the R&B mold, and Bieber's using much more of his upper range against a classier piano line and a very sparse beat. And believe it or not, Justin Bieber's not bad here at all. Yeah, the blatantly disconnected lines and accompanying bitchiness is a little bit exasperating, but at least the sentiment makes sense here. It's a distrustful song as Justin Bieber tries to maintain stability in his relationship even despite the press and his own doubts egging on relationship strife. And it definitely helps that Nas is able to step in with his final verse, delivering a very authoritative, calming presence, and calls back to what works in the relationship instead of focusing on what doesn't. Something that Justin Bieber doesn't quite grasp in the same way, but he's not at that level of maturity. I kinda get why. I still think the track feels a little bit limp, the airy production against the stiffer percussion, but again, this is good enough for the main album. Probably should have been there. Number 87, Olivia by One Direction.
I've been idolizing the light in your eyes, Olivia. I live for you, I long for you, Olivia. Don't let me go. Don't let me go.
And now we're entering the territory of songs that I've already talked about in the review, so I'm gonna aim to keep this pretty brief. With Olivia, it's got a cute lyrical cadence and classy Europop vibe, complete with the elegant strings and the horns. And even though none of the boys are remotely convincing in their lower range, this is one of the few songs you can tell they're having an absolute blast getting their Michael Bublé on. And even if it does feel like a bit of a fragment, could have been fleshed out into more of a full song, it's a damn good fragment. Definitely recommended. Number 83, If I Could Fly by One Direction.
I show you my heart for when you're lonely and forget who you are. I'm missing half of me when we're apart. Now you know me for your eyes only.
Hey look, it's one of the piano ballads that I actually quite liked on the album, and the strings are a nice touch. Conventional chord structure, sure, but vulnerability and heartfelt harmonies can make up for a lot, and I like the sense of restraint that comes to the edge of bombast but never really overplaying it. It's something I can imagine that the Backstreet Boys doing. And for One Direction, that's the highest possible compliment that I will give them, because it's a really damn good song. Check this out. Number 81, Been You by Justin Bieber. And now we have our fourth Justin Bieber bonus track. And again, I'm not surprised this was thrown to that disc. Although in this case, because it's probably the most conventional electro-pop track here, with the retro bass line and a synth line that alternates between being flabby and kind of having some wiry tightness to it. And sure, Bieber doesn't really do much with the song, but the lyrical sentiment reflecting on a lost relationship, that's decent, even though I do question how well a mid-tempo rollick works for this sort of song. In other words, even despite being more pissy, Sorry is probably the track that replaced this and pushed this to the bonus disc, and kind of for good reason, because this is really kind of forgettable. Number 74, Children by Justin Bieber.
But we can make a difference. Oh yeah. Who's got the heart? Whose heart is the biggest? Now, wear it on your sleeve. But we can make a difference. Oh yeah.
It is the message to my generation that we should be honest visionaries and do it for the children, be willing to die for them, all for some undefined inspirational reason, all against a fragmented chipmunk bat beat that Skrillex could have made in his sleep. Yeah, okay, Bieber, if I'm gonna die for them, you go first. Number 67, Life is Worth Living by Justin Bieber.
Life is worth living, so live another day. The meaning of forgiveness. People make mistakes, doesn't mean you have to give in. Life is worth living again.
On this piano ballad, Justin Bieber delves into the sentiment that life is worth living and we should forgive him because we clearly aren't seeing the real him. You know, the real him, where angels send messages with auto-tune crooning because only God can judge Justin Bieber. Yeah, okay, get back to me when he gets on his next DUI charge. Just saying here. Number 54, No Sense by Justin Bieber featuring Travis Scott.
I'm doing it with you. Been around the world, think the same way that you.
Okay, Bieber, when you hop on a bass-heavy trap beat, even with the change up to those lo-fi blocky chunks, at least try to sound like you're having fun with your bragging. Instead, with the heavy pitch correction and the staccato chorus, it would make no sense for this girl to actually stay with you. And Travis Scott, we already have a future. And most of the time, we don't want him either. Number 53, Company by Justin Bieber.
Keep each other company. Oh, maybe we can be each other's company. Oh, company.
Decent hazy interplay, especially with the plucked fragments on the chorus, solid rollicking groove, and by keeping it a simple hookup track, we avoid the pissiness that irked me about most of this album. Hell, if you clear out that unnecessary trilling synth and give the lead vocal to someone with a little bit more personality, you might even have a great song. As it is, it's one of the better tracks from the album, so I guess I'll take it. Number 49, No Pressure by Justin Bieber featuring Big Shawn. You know, Bieber, just because Chris Brown delayed his album doesn't mean you have to emulate his vocal cadence or make a song loaded with guilt-tripping whining where you admit that you probably originally thought this girl was a gold digger, but now that you have feelings, it's okay for her to come back. But no pressure on her, right? Come with Big Shawn making increasingly corny references to Street Fighter, Empire, and a relationship that I have no idea once he wants to still have, against an acoustic beat with a hollow synth tooting, and I start losing my patience. But again, Justin Bieber, no pressure there. Number 43, Purpose by Justin Bieber.
The best gift that I've ever known. You give me purpose. Yeah, you've given me purpose.
You know, it's that piano ballad title track where Justin Bieber intends as a message right to the man upstairs about having been given purpose, only to end it with a rambling monologue where he sidesteps any real responsibility because he wasn't always in the best position to make the best decisions because, hey, if it ends up happening, it ends up happening. Yeah, just because you weren't in the right position to not destroy property or drive drunk or behave like a total asshole, I get it now, Bieber. It's not your fault. Number 42, Mark My Words by Justin Bieber.
Give you all I got, in every way I will. You're the only reason why. Oh, I don't wanna live a lie. Mark my words. Mark my words.
Hey, you know, this sounds a little bit like The Weeknd with the pitch-shifted vocal fragment, the faded melody, surprisingly ominous message towards the next, and a limp vocal delivery. You know, the worst kind of Weeknd songs. Thank God it's short, but even then, not saying much. Next. Number 31, The Feeling by Justin Bieber featuring Halsey. Hey look folks, it's Halsey and Justin Bieber, two singers who had absolutely nothing to otherwise decent instrumentation that still has too much hollow pitch shifting to be any better. And it's telling how Justin Bieber spends this song negging this girl instead of focusing on his own hollowness. Notorious for thinking you're beautiful instead of hollow, describing her as a jagged pill that's hard to swallow. Even coming from the guy who called New Americana hot garbage, that's kinda mean to Halsey, Bieber. But then again, he probably wasn't in the position to make the best decisions, right? Number 30, Great Is Thy Faithfulness by Jordan Smith.
Thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.
And now we finally get a last-second breather away from Justin Bieber, and just, well, it's a gospel cover from the voice from the one contestant that seems to matter this year. And look, I grew up singing in church choirs. I'm not exactly gonna deny that this guy sounds powerful, especially in making the right choice and stripping down to the piano and spits very powerful vocals. But I've never really been fond of this hymn itself, so this song doesn't really do much for me. If I'm gonna stick with gospel this year after all, I'm sticking with the self-titled Algiers album, which is amazing. And considering Jordan Smith doesn't really have anything close to raw texture in his delivery, it's probably gonna stay that way. Just saying. And finally, number 4, Love Yourself by Justin Bieber.
Oh baby, you should go and love yourself. And if you think that I'm still holding on to something, you should go and love yourself.
You know, is it weird? The more I've listened to this song, the more I simultaneously don't really mind it and yet want to hate it a lot more. It's purposely designed as a diss track that plays itself too cute to actually swear. The guitar tone barely has any actual texture, and the only emotive presence that Justin Bieber includes is the crooning harmony in his upper register. And yet, for as bitter as this song is, the melody and harmony is well executed, the trumpet interlude is solid, and Ed Sheeran's knack for lyrical cadence shows through in the writing. On top of that, I kind of appreciate how the song at least admits that Justin Bieber screwed up by dating this girl who they really make out to be a real piece of work. So yeah, it's pissy and bitter and will definitely get insufferable if it sticks around that much longer, but compared to Justin Bieber's self-aggrandizing half apologies that plagued the rest of this week, this at least feels authentic, and you know what? I can respect that at least. So that was our week, and oh god, it went way too long. For the worst, really, I feel like I picked up a half dozen mediocre Justin Bieber tracks, but I'm gonna zoom in on No Pressure for the worst of the week with Big Shawn, and children snagging dishonorable mention for being pseudo-inspirational nonsense with chipmunk vocals to boot. As to the best, as I said, if returning entries are factored in, the weekend would easily have it here, but things have changed for this year on Billboard Breakdown, and that means we got a One Direction sweep with I Could Fly as the best of the week and AM as honorable mention. Let's hope for better next week, or at the very least, a little less Justin Bieber, which I think we'll have. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse.